Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Kalia again for Signals and Symptoms podcast. Today's going to be a little light. We want to just basically discuss more of what the state of AI is. And I'm going to tell you my journey. The idea was to understand what we in the industry term call fourth industrial revolution. You guys are seeing in the whole media that AI is a bubble, AI is a bubble. But I just want to take you back. And I'm going to ask the first question, which we call big ideas. And I always do this research. I think this is always nice. Not that I'm asking you to invest in this company or whatever, but this has AI is accelerating the performance, doubling rate, closing in on the end of chessboard. What I'm saying is that what we have done is productivity, productivity, productivity. So let me first ask my expert here the first question. Think of 1950s. 50%, actually 40 to 60%, depending on where you look at the statistics, agriculture was done by human beings. As a matter of fact, in the United States, everyone was busy doing agriculture, producing food. Now, only 2% of the population is actually doing what? Agriculture. We went from, this was what we consider, depending on which book you read, second industrial revolution or third industrial revolution. And now, even in agriculture, like the tractor doesn't need to be moved by a human being. That 2% is at risk. So I want to ask Harvey that in the advent of the state of AI that we are in, take us back from the industrial revolutions that we have gone through, from electricity to, motor cars to agriculture, and the shift of human potential that has changed, including, so number one, human working that are in that particular vision. The second biggest thing is the productivity increase. And then the third thing, honestly, it's becoming a little scary for me. So soothe me up that how things are going to go, because if AI is going to take over this much, the productivity increase with AI is going to be insane. What do you think that how the state of AI is today in that lens from an industrial revolution change to what you see in 5 years?
Yeah, tough, man. You always, and I want everybody to know he never tells me the question. So these are all real thoughts. So it's really tough. With that said, I like taking it to the next level. Let's think about neuroplasticity, right? Why do I mention even that statement? Is because there's a shift going on, and it's just not beyond what we're doing and how we're doing things, but our brain is totally shifting. And so to answer your question, I just want to say, the way you will do things in 10 years, 20 years, even though your kids will be older and be doing maybe the same thing, let's say he or she, your kids are doctors, because your brain has been formed differently, you're going to use the tools of tomorrow differently, and they will use it differently. And as a result, the output will be differently. And so I want to make sure you understand that, because what will happen in the future, even though you and I love AI, we will use our creativity. We will use the way our brain and the way we form things differently from your kids. And your kids may start allowing things that you would never allow because of their neuroplasticity. So I just wanted to start with that.
Now, let me just go through a few more updates from other important publications, and then ask very tough questions to Harvey. So one of the things is that people who do not read, this is an artificial intelligence index report. I think this is my very important reading. I read this multiple times. I have read this at least 3 times already. It comes out essentially within the Q1 of 2025. And it is, gives you what we call top key takeaways. What they said is that interestingly, we are breaking through all the benchmarks. So they have to create new benchmarks. The second thing is this, that AI is increasingly embedded in everyday life. And the choice that they made was that FDA approved in 2023 enabled devices, just 6 in 2015. So what they're saying is that what you're seeing is that real world classic application is going, and that on the roads driving no longer. So I just want to make sure that I let Harvey sort of comment on this. And then given that he's an international traveler, international speaker, by the way, he's going to have a TED Talk, one more. I think he already has 4, so one more is coming, to comment on this for us.
Yeah, so think about it. When you used to come into the United States, when you travel, it was paper, right? If you didn't have a paper, that was it. Now you can use your mobile, and now take that to the next level. When I come into the United States, it is crazy. I'm literally in the United States within seconds. I literally push a kiosk. It takes a picture of me. I'm part of the global reentry program. And then a TSA agent looks at my face. It's, "You're Harvey Castro." I nod my head and I walk in the country. That would not happen 10 years ago. And that's making my life easier. Same thing I'm noticing in international travels, all these countries, Singapore. In fact, Singapore was the first time I had seen this. I walk into TSA and there was literally maybe three agents equivalent for about 50 stands. And then they go through these little doors and I'm able to come in. But that's just simple AI causing applications for us. Real quick, I want to also say, as these autonomous vehicles become a thing, one of the main things as an ER doctor is me signing off for vouchers for people to be able to get back home, or Ubers and whatnot. Now, autonomous vehicles, we will have some set up for a radius of the hospital that will go get our patients and come back.
US still leads production in top AI models, but China is closing the performance gap. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We actually did talk to Alibaba from a statewide perspective to just to understand what is their capacity and everything. And given that we are an international company, the US, of course, remains on, our partners. We have Google Cloud as our partners, and they actually host our vision models and everything. But for the rest of the world, we do have options. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Alibaba, which is a cloud service, and they have two things behind them: the Moonshot AI, which is Kimi K2, and the Quinn model, which is Alibaba itself, are 1/10 of the price. And the performance gap is really not that much. What do you think the future is in terms of this?
So you have some big companies in the United States that are charging 10 times more. And from an economic point, some of the things that you and I are doing in healthcare, do we need a limousine for a certain simple task? Or can we do a Chinese model or a non-US model that may cost 1/10 of the price, or some cases 100th of a percent of that price? From an economic point, it makes no sense to do that. And as this gap gets closer and closer to reality, it gets to a point where I needed to do this. The technology is already past that in 6 months and a year. So why switch models? Keep something. I don't need that extra push for some things. So I see, fast forward, what's going to happen. I really think it's going to push the US to lower their prices because of the competition. And that goes back to capitalism, which is ironic, right? Because we're saying China is pushing us to lower prices in a roundabout way. We always think of China in a different light. So it's interesting.
Now, this is another one. Global AI optimism is rising. So this is exactly as you told last time. And people are investing in my company and, in our joint ventures and everything, which are AI based, is a significant, amazing optimism that we have seen. But more importantly, but deep regional divide remains. And this is it. In countries like China, Indonesia, Thailand, strong majority see AI products as more beneficial than harmful. In contrast, optimism remains lower in like Canada, United States, Netherlands. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of why people are perceiving it differently in the first place? And how should we move the perception if we need to?
Yeah, good question. I say this a lot. I really think it's about the culture. It's about the settings. In healthcare, we're very traditional. We take our time. We're slow adapters. We're not sure. There's a cost issue. But in other parts of the world, they use technology openly. When I was in Singapore, I was shocked how many simple vending machines that would make you fresh orange juice were all over the place. And they would fill up these vending machines with fresh orange, and you would walk by and they would squeeze it for you, create it. And this autonomization is like everywhere in Singapore. And so the culture accepts innovation. And as a result, Singapore is really big on AI, to the point where the government, this is why I work with the government, I work with the Ministry of Health to help them regulate. And they're having a hard time regulating because the people are pushing this technology and pushing. They're like, oh my gosh, we barely can keep up. Whereas in the United States, we have a different type of culture, and it causes that resistance. And that's why I feel like we start seeing some countries saying, no, we're all in. And some others are like, no, we're skeptical. And that's part of it.
By the way, US government for the first time actually invested in Intel And Intel as a chip manufacturer is extremely important for national security, and they're developing and going to be hopefully competing with NVIDIA. And the idea was that the US government is now has a 10% stake in NVIDIA, which is really, really odd. And I don't know why this do so. But if you look at Canada, China, France, India, Saudi Arabia is projected to spend $100 billion in these initiatives. So number one is, of course, investment. It's also good. I'll ask him to. But also on the footnote, U.S. government actually introduced 59 new related regulations, more than double the number of 23 issued by twice as many agencies. So that is actually going on as this. So how do you take both of this together, Harvey? One, they're increasing the investment and also increasing the regulation. And what is it pointing to? Is it pointing to protectionism, or what is it?
No, that's a good question. If you think about it, to go into the weeds, what kind of regulation is it? And I'm playing in devil's advocate. Are they regulating to the point where it helps the big guys like OpenAI and the companies that are really out there and they're protecting their interests? Or is it regulating to protect you and me, the small guys starting up simple AIs? And I think there you'll see, is it true regulation or is it more protectionism towards their own investment, if you think about it that way too? I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just planning to see, to really look at it and dissect it. When it comes to regulation, we all know that the big three entities are the GDPR in Europe for healthcare regulation, AI, and then the second that you start seeing more and more is California. They're doing their own thing, and then the rest of the United States. So it's interesting to see where these regulations play, because as you know, if regulation becomes too broken up in pieces, then someone that's trying to create an AI now has to figure out 50, 100 different laws and how to apply those. So it becomes a little, I think it can slow down the innovation.
I'm going to switch over again. This is very important read that you guys need to go over at some point in time. And then I'm going to quickly go how organizations are rewriting the capture value and the state of AI is concerned. And this is from McKinsey report. I would really appreciate that you guys review this as well as you go along. I'm just going to capture just one moment over here. Risk and effort are two of the most centralized elements of deploying AI solutions where tech talent is often hybrid. Risk and data governance. And this is exactly becoming a really important thing. We actually talked about last time with our Dr. Hyatt was here, Harvey Castro's good friend, that AI governance is extremely, extremely important. But I just want to make sure that, Harvey, your opinion, it seems like this is a industry-wide challenge, corporate governance.
Yeah, it's we're in the wild west days right now. What do we do? How do we move forward? And how we play chess is so important to create those initial correct moves, because there's so much at stake. Obviously, in healthcare, we do this wrong and we're hurting people and we're making the disparities worse. Or can we use AI to help decrease those disparities and help humanity? So we must get this correctly. Everybody's talking about the governance. How can we create this? And there's several organizations out there that are guiding states and national and different governments on how to best create the best practices.
Last two questions. So this is an Air Street Capital, Nathan Bennett. We're going to reach out to him to actually discuss this whole thing. But I just want to make sure that you guys understand this resource as well, and then continue to read on these important topics as we go along. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this. Think before you speak. I wish I did that. Is that one thinking ignites the reasoning race? I disagree, but anyways, because chain of thought reasoning, Manus has been doing it long before this. And again, within you build that COT, which is chain of thought, as compared to this and everything. So I'm just going to give my opinion. We built, right, AI agents, and then essentially it's a very sexy, word. But at the end of the day, it's what the mode is the workflow, right? Where we're building an amazing workflow for acute stroke or acute coronary. It doesn't matter if you use an AI agent in sequence, in parallel, or whatever. It's the end goal is to solve the goddamn problem. But again, your thoughts on this, because this thinking has been really off for me. What is your reading been in terms of thinking as an important factor in the LLMs?
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I think at the end of the day, we're again, Wild Wild West. There's are all new different techniques. How can we get the best output? As these models and the chain of thought itself gets better and better, the output will get better. Now, you and I, as doctors, and you especially as your background, you look at thinking very pure like a scientist. You and I know too that these are just algorithms and they're just fancy math equations. So is that really thinking? You can make it a point that it's not really thinking the way you and I are thinking about thinking. But with that said, I look at this as just a different way of asking the question. And instead of for layman's people asking a question, having the chain of thought, having the prompt created in such a way that it extracts the best output is what ultimately you and I want. And call it chain of thought today, call it something else tomorrow. It doesn't matter in the sense because there's different techniques. Just as an aside, you'll like this. I did this hack and you'll love this hack. Google came out with a cool paper, God, I think it was in May, about prompting. I took that paper and you can do this yourself. And I use it as a GPT in the background to help me optimize my prompting because it's taking all of their research in prompting and it's giving me a heck of a prompt.
Well, today's episode was short and sweet, but we discussed what the state of AI is. And I'm going to end it at Harvey's note that we have to continue thinking about thinking in AI. See you next week, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.